Okay, everyone, we're going to get started with our regular school board meeting of Tuesday, August 18th, 2015. I want to welcome everyone. And Member Leffler-Kemp, would you call roll, please? Hold on. Go ahead.
Okay, Member Harla. Here. Member Johnston. Okay, Member Murneke. Here. Chair Saliga-Punko.
Here.
Member Welty.
Here.
Member Westholm. Here. Superintendent Gronsett.
Here.
Assistant Superintendent, hi Amy. Okay. Deputy Clerk Bill Hansen. Secretary Melinda Thibault. And our student reps, thank you for being here in the August meeting. Mr. Goosens and Mr. Olafson. Okay, great.
We have a quorum. Thank you. Will everyone please stand up and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'd like to start out with approval of the agenda. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Okay, that's moved. Okay, was that moved by Member Harla and seconded by Member Welty, right?
Opposite.
Okay, moved by, it was tie. Okay, Member Welty moved it and Member Harla seconded it. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carries. And let's go to reading and approval of the minutes for our regular school board meeting, July 21st, 2015. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Member Harla, second.
Second.
Seconded by Member Westholm. Is there any discussion or any changes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. And then the next item is school and community recognition. And so if I could ask the board to come down, and we're going to recognize a very special group. Oh, I can turn that on.
I know, thank you. Come on up, guys. Good evening, members of the board. This month, I'm pleased to present Cub Scouts of Pack 13, Gary, New Duluth, for recognition. With us tonight are the Cub Scout members and their leader, Lisa Van Doren. Earlier this year, Pack 13 took a walk on the nature trail behind Stowe Elementary School. This trail is used by our students throughout the school year for educational and recreational purposes. During the walk, the scouts noticed that many birdhouses along the trail were in disrepair and in need of replacement. The scouts decided to improve the trail by addressing the need as a service project. They dedicated one of their meetings to building a dozen new birdhouses to replace the ones that had fallen apart. Last month, they returned to the nature trail to hang their new houses. Many thanks to the leadership and the scouts of Pack 13 for helping improve the nature trail at Stowe Elementary.
It's always fun to have an audience of students here, community members. So, thanks, guys. All right, we're going to go on to audience, and Member Leffler-Kemp, before we get to that, if you would read the vision statement of the school district, please.
Sure. And this, again, is our community vision statement. The purpose of Independent School District 709 is to provide a quality education that prepares all students for successful lives as global citizens in the home, community, and workplace. We will build on our shared beliefs and values of unity, high achievement, and responsible use of resources to create Duluth Public Schools and classrooms that are safe, supportive, and inclusive. We will work to inspire every student to achieve their potential and prepare students to live productive, fulfilling lives as citizens of Duluth and the wider world.
Thank you, Member Leffler-Kemp. Okay, we're going to start out with audience, and just a reminder, Member Leffler-Kemp will be timing. She has a 3-minute timer, and when you have 30 seconds to go, it'll turn to yellow, and then once it's done, it'll be red. So, and please keep your comments civil and golden rule, like we want to be treated. Okay, first speaker is Jim Guzzo, is it? Okay.
Hello. Just one thing I wanted to bring out was the shortage of bus drivers across the northern region, and hopefully that you're out there looking for some answers like I am too. We've had a lot of staff driving buses last year, right down to Ken Wilms, who was the manager. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay. The next speaker is Lynn Kino. Did I say that right? Is that correct? Kino. Okay.
Not good with the whole speaking thing, but I'm the lunch monitor at Laura MacArthur, and I was watching the latest, board meeting last week, and you guys are talking about, the increase for monitors and everything. And when I talk to other monitors and everything, I don't get a very good reaction. They're like, oh, they're never going to do it. We don't trust them and everything. And so that's what, that's why I wrote that letter. And I look at you guys as, you guys want us to trust you, and the kids at Laura MacArthur wants me to trust them, and for the Laura MacArthur kids to trust me, I have to keep my word, I have to follow through with my word. They go beginning of the year, they don't trust me, but by the end of the year, they're all well behaved and they trust me. And if you guys want the lower paid people to trust and not be discouraged, then it would be nice to have a follow through, because some of the lunch monitors, don't quote me, I believe one's been there for like 35 years and she's never received a pay raise, only at the cost of living or minimum wage. Then they get a raise. But other than that, they have never got a raise. And I'm not even coming here to say I want a raise. I'm just talking about the people that's been there for a long time. It would make my job easier if they're happy, because people that don't make much, so I want them to be happy. They deserve it. They're great people. And the kids deserve to have happy monitors. So I'm not very good at this whole talking thing. So.
Thanks. Okay, the next person, is it Doc? Is that right? Okay.
I'm not very good at this either. I was on a goose chase and I left my notes at home before I came down here. But my question to the school board is, do I have a lawsuit against you? September 14th of 2014, I was relieved of my duty. Ken Wilms, Ron Lake came up to school, pulled me out of the classroom I was in. And they were accusing me of stuff because I wanted to purchase a shotgun for protection. Well, in 2009, I was attacked by a bobcat. I had an issue with a wolverine and a bear. Now, the purpose of this shotgun was not to do anything to me, but for protection of my animals. Okay, after 2 weeks of being out of school, not doing my job, and then come back, then I get sexual harassment from other students or other bus drivers. I go to Ken Wilms at the time. I told him what was going on, and he's pretty spineless. He just goes underneath his desk.
We need to keep this, we can't
okay, I'll
bring
try
up
to
other
clean it
people.
up.
Thank you.
Well, he didn't do too much except, what do you want me to do about it? I go to Harrison Dudley. He goes, what do you want me to do about it?
Please don't use other people's names.
Okay.
Thank you.
I go to another person in the school board, and he says, what do you want me to do about it? Then I went to somebody else, and they said, well, we just can't do this, we can't do that. But there is harassment, and nothing's being done about it. Not just with me, but with another bus driver. She would not even go into the break room because of that. I reported that to transportation manager. He said, well, I can't do anything about it. What's going on with the school district? I mean, you have a bunch of people that are getting paid good money, not doing their job. It seems like the clowns are running the circus. I mean, any person that gets bullied by another staff member or any employee, it's wrong. It's just, I asked for a meeting with certain members of the school district. This one member said, I have no right to demand a meeting. Well, I wasn't demanding, I'm requesting. There is a difference between request and demand. Okay, then I asked for some paperwork so I can come on school property again. And they said, we'll send it to you. I'm still waiting for that letter. July 6th, I come down here and I asked a certain person if I can have a copy of my personnel file and all papers. You're waiting for that light to turn. But they didn't happen to have the form for me to fill out, so I just filled it on a blank piece of paper and it was stamped, and they said, we'll get it to you. Well, I'm still waiting for my personnel file. Isn't it against the law to hold it for more than 3 days or not give it to me? And I don't even know if I'm still employed by the school district. Nobody has sent me a letter. Nobody has communicated with me. Nobody has done anything. So I'm a little bit upset because nothing's being done.
Just want, if you could wrap it up, because we're over time. Thank you.
Yeah, I know you didn't like this.
Well, it's 4 minutes now.
Okay.
So.
But if you want to talk, maybe tomorrow.
Okay, and our next speaker is Ann Craftifer. There you are.
Good evening, Board. I'm Ann Craftifer, and I teach at Lester Park School, but I'm here tonight as a member of the Board of Teaching because I think we have an opportunity in front of us that we haven't had for many, many years, since Paul Rigstead was in the district, and that is to start working together with some community on legislative issues. So I want to read you the mission of the Board of Teaching. I've been on for 2.5 years, and I'm starting to get a grasp of exactly what we're doing. And the mission is to ensure that Minnesota students are served by licensed teachers who are equipped to deliver effective instruction and meet the instructional needs of all learners. And we do that in 3 different ways. One is establishing and maintaining licensure standards and requirements. Second is approving institutions and licensure programs to prepare Minnesota teachers. And the third one is to establish and enforce the Code of Ethics for Minnesota teachers. What I've been realizing as I've been digging deeper into the legislation that has happened in the last couple of years is that we're continually put on the reaction end of education reform. And I'm asking the board to consider the possibility of working with our local MACD institutions. MACD stands for Minnesota Association of Teachers of Teacher Education, UMD and St. Scholastica, the union, and the district to collaborate so that we can come to some common ground issues and then center lobbying efforts from all four organizations around the issues that we find have need of funding or of policy making. And I don't know that we've ever done this before. And it's just come to me lately that this would be a really wise use of our time. So I have a couple of areas that I think are common ground. But I'm not the person to speak to that because it's a collaborative effort to do that sort of thing. But here are 4 things that I've been considering. One of the things that we've been talking about throughout the district and throughout the state is increasing the number of teachers of color. And I think that if we were to be looking at a grow your own sort of situation where we are having students within our district who are students of color, have opportunities and legislation to support the policy and to support funding for them, we might be able to increase the number of teachers of color within our district, which would be lovely. A second one, and that also goes along with the graph that I handed out to you, we are going to very shortly see not enough teachers, licensed teachers for our classrooms. Second one is year-long student teaching. There's no reason in the world why we need to do this with funding from the state if we collaborate with UMD and St. Scholastica. I did it last year. I'm doing it this year. I have one who's placed for their 3rd block, and then they stay with me for the student teaching. It's been marvelous. Third one, and the one I'm most excited about, and I'm going to run out of time, is a Certificate of Advanced Professional Study. And this is something that got into legislation but did not get funded. And it's something that we can do within the district to especially work on equity issues for our teachers, for them to learn more about different cultures. And I've talked to Bill and Edie House about this, and it's a possibility that they would look forward to doing as well. And there was one more. Well, at any rate, this is my desire, the idea of working with UMD and Scholastica, the union and the district, to develop some common ground and then push for legislation together. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. Okay, is there any more? Oh, there is. Marcia Stromgren.
Originally, I decided to hold off on this, but after what she just said, I thought I would say it. My young lady, 19 years old, was in the AmeriCorps program. I think that ends this week from my conversation with her. She was in a class out at Congdon, a split class, 2-3 grade. When the teacher was teaching the 3rd graders, this young lady, graduated from East High School last year, was teaching the 2nd graders. Now, when the teacher was teaching 2nd graders, she was teaching the 3rd graders. Now, this young lady gets a stipend to work in this classroom. When I heard the chairman of the board say how she just loves to save this district money, well, what's happening is you've got a bleed out of students going to other alternative schools. So you don't have enough money to fund even student aid or teachers' aides for these classrooms. And I've heard this from teachers. Now this woman says, same thing. You don't have enough staff to take care of the students you already have. You're going to be losing more of them as soon as more alternative schools get on board. So why don't you start saving the district money and change your policy about selling these old buildings. They're going to build these schools, they're going to start these schools anyway, and we sit there as taxpayers and pay more taxes because you hold on to those buildings. I suggest you change your policy. They're going to build, they're going to come anyway. And you know what? My granddaughter is the girl I'm talking about. The stipend she got in AmeriCorps, she loves her work. But you know what? She shouldn't have been teaching those kids. She wasn't licensed to do it.
Okay, next speaker is Classy Dudley.
Hi. Oh, it's on, okay. Hi, my name is Classy Jedley. Sorry I came here a little late. I knew about this board meeting like last minute, so I'm running in. But I invited you all via email to an event that's put on. It's sponsored by Chum. They put it all together. Beautiful at the Temple of Israel on this Sunday, 4 o'clock p.m. It's a little documentary we put together about mothers who attend the school district in Minnesota, and it talks about their issues and their concerns and stuff about the school district here in Duluth as well as in the Twin Port areas. I put the documentary together in like 3 days, got flown out to Philadelphia, previewed it there, as well as Atlanta, Georgia, Memphis, Tennessee, and kind of in Alabama a little bit, but I don't really count that. But anyway, so it was featured on the news here, and I think it's going to be featured again this Sunday. A couple other news sites are taking over it too. The full documentary hasn't been aired yet just because the mothers haven't seen it yet, but they all extended an invitation out to you as well as potential school board members and city council, and also the Hermantown School Board, the Hermantown Superintendent, and I think a superior as well. So we hope you all can come. Check your emails if you haven't got it yet. I know I got a response from you, Annie, thank you, and I understand. But everybody else, I hope to see you there. That is all.
Okay. We're going to go on to the superintendent reading communications and petitions. And
All right, I don't have any official communications to share, so we'll just move right into the superintendent report. And I can tell you that in some ways, August is one of our busiest months. There is so much to be done before school starts in 21 days. That's right, 21 days. I can tell you that all of our principals are back at work now, including 3 brand new principals. They are new to Duluth, and we'd like to welcome them. We have Jen Larva, who's the new principal at Lowell, and she's coming to us from Carleton. And Beth Shermoen will be at Piedmont, and she made the move from way up north in International Falls. I think it's the first time I've ever been able to say, yeah, I think the winters will be warmer in Duluth. And yeah, I know, it was bad. And Darren Sheldon from the Fargo-Moorhead area will be leading Lakewood School. So we're excited to have them join us. I can tell you it was a very thorough process that we went through. There were many, many applicants for these positions with great qualifications. And we had a team of teachers and parents and district administrators that all worked together to preview all of the applicants and to go through the interview process. And there was a lot of conversation and decision-making done before arriving at this decision with these 3 candidates. And I'm excited for them to get to know everyone. This week, we also have Jumpstart for our high school students. Students at both schools have the opportunity to come in, get their paperwork taken care of, get their pictures taken for their student IDs, find out everything that they need to know for the coming year. Families can check the district website at isd709.org for more information and specific times on that. All students should have received information about specific times that they're signed up to come in, but if not, just check out the website and find the right time. You can also go to all of our school websites for information on open houses that are coming up, and fall sports have already begun. It's a very busy season. Also, next week is the Chum annual backpack distribution. It will be held here at Hawks, right back there in the gym. And whether people are interested in helping by donating supplies or backpacks or cash to buy supplies or backpacks, they can go to the Chum website, or you can Google Chum backpacks and it will take you right to that site for more information on how to do that. And I believe if you want to make a cash donation, you can do that online. I know that this is a greatly appreciated event, and last year gave out about 900 backpacks. And that's a lot of lives that are touched so many families wouldn't be able to supply their kids with these backpacks and the pens and pencils and papers that they really need to be successful, not only at school, but to have them at home as well for supplies to do their schoolwork. So we greatly appreciate all of the effort and time and donations that go into putting on that event. And again, we want to thank our Cub Scouts for their work. I know that the birdhouses are looking good out on the trail there at Stowe. And I'll just share with you that I, too, was a Cub Scout at Stowe, so I appreciate the work that you did even more. And then we have our students back at it. And so why don't we start with Mr. Goosens?
Yeah, well, you pretty much mentioned everything that I was going to say for
you can repeat
school-related things. Jumpstart is basically the only thing going on for East students school-wise this year. But there is another thing that I do need to talk about, though, as I'm sure you're all aware that East High School has lost another student this past July. And, I mean, it's still hard, I think, for all of us to talk about, just because in my grade alone, this is the second student that we have lost now. And it's a tragic and shocking thing for everyone and for all of his friends and for the whole school and for the whole community. And I think every single student at East agrees that, I know in the beginning of the year last year, there were a number of students that were voicing support for something along the lines of a mental health counselor, and there were some discussions of that. They didn't get too terribly far, as there were a lot of logistical issues that we needed to figure out, but then talks with that didn't exactly extend out to the point that we wanted to. But now, after the second incident of this happening in my grade alone, I think it's time that both the executive board and association, the two primary school leadership groups at East High School, definitely agree that this is kind of the time to restart these discussions. And I would like to read a petition of sorts. It was more just to gauge the support of just any kind of initiative to add any resources to Duluth High School. It's not just East and not just Denfeld, but both Duluth High Schools. This is from the executive board of East. It says, high school students are faced with countless pressures every single day in every area of life. The stresses of homework, athletics, clubs, friends, family, and many other things can accumulate into a seemingly insurmountable obstacle in life and can leave students feeling hopeless. This, coupled with rising rates of anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues in teenagers, creates a significant demand for mental health resources at school. In our Duluth High Schools, our resources are startlingly inadequate. Too many students are stuck feeling hopeless in school with no one to talk to, no one to go to in order to address their suffering. A large number of students have already voiced their support in having a mental health counselor at the school, accessible to students who suffer from long-term issues like anxiety and depression, as well as on a day-to-day basis for students who may have a sudden and urgent need for help. Having a mental health counselor is not the only option. Teachers can do a better job at reaching out and making connections with the students who otherwise don't feel any connections at the school. The student body as a whole can do a better job at fostering a community that acknowledges and cares about every single student. We want every single student to feel like they have a connection to the school and that they are a part of a community that cares about them. We don't want students to feel hopeless and without options while walking through our classes and through our halls. The demand is abundant and the resources are scarce. There are many options with varying degrees of logistical feasibility that are all worth exploring as a community. If we can get a significant portion of the student body to note their support of adding needed resources for mental health care in a school, we can get the administration to recognize the severe lack of resources we currently have. And in the past few days alone, we just released this petition a couple days ago, and it has 671 signatures already from 12 different states and surprisingly 6 different countries, from students, alumni, parents, and just other community members. You can see that just within the past several days that there's just been on social media everywhere, people have been sharing their own personal stories of just these little times that things have happened to them at school where they need someone to go to or they need some sort of resource. And right now we don't really have anything at school. And we recognize as a student body that hiring a mental health counselor isn't exactly the most realistic or feasible option to do. But there are many other resources that we can explore as a board and as a school district and just as a student body as well, of just different things that we can do. I know Denfeld has the positive behavioral interventions and supports program. That would be interesting to see how that could work at East as well. And there are just different programs with equipping teachers with skills that could help students, just publicizing and connecting students with online resources and community resources. And ideally, we could do something about the student to counselor ratio. In Minnesota alone, the average counselor to student ratio is 792 to 1, and the national average is 450 to 1. And what is recommended by the American School Counselor Association is 250 to 1. And at East, we have 3 counselors and 1,600 students, and that is a ratio of approximately 600 or so students to each counselor. So there are a lot of different things that we can be doing. So I just think we need to be having this discussion more seriously about how we can navigate these obstacles and start implementing and exploring these resources more, because the students know that we need this, because we have lost a second student in our grade alone in the past 4 years, and that's just kind of unacceptable. We don't mean this to be accusatory whatsoever of the school district or of the administration at the schools, but we just, looking at what has been happening over the past several years, we have lost 2 of our friends and 2 members of our community, and we need to do something about it to have more resources so students don't feel hopeless when they're at school.
Why don't we go to Mr. Olafson, and then I'll wrap it up.
It's really hard to follow 2 excellent reports like that when school hasn't quite started yet. As Superintendent Grontas said, our jumpstart was today for seniors and I believe sophomores, and tomorrow is for juniors and freshmen. Sports tryouts are going on right now. Both boys and girls soccer, girls tennis, girls swim, and boys football have already been practicing, I believe, as well as the cross-country team. So looks like it's going to be a good year for sports and activities, and everybody's getting excited for school and my senior year, some people's senior year. So, thank you.
All right. Thank you both for those. And I just want to take the opportunity to highlight some of the things that we do provide for mental health, not only at our high schools, but K-12 across the district. I know this wasn't on the agenda, but I feel like it would be appropriate to do that now. We do have counselors at our high schools and our middle schools. We also have social workers that provide services as well. But we also have, which is pretty unique to our community, is a partnership with the mental health providers in Duluth. And so mental health providers come into our schools and provide services for students when it is the most appropriate for them to do that. That means if they're not able to seek out those services outside those schools, so if they don't have transportation or for some reason they're not able to seek out those services outside of school hours, the mental health providers come into the school and work with students. And they work directly with the families. The partnership is just a shared location of the schools. And so we work very hard with the community to build those partnerships. We're also looking at models that would have people in the schools more regularly, not just when they have appointments scheduled with certain students. And so that is something that we continue to explore. We care a great deal about our students and know that mental health, not only in the pre-K-12 setting, but throughout the community, is an important topic for all of us to be discussing. So perhaps that would be a topic that we could discuss more thoroughly when it's on the agenda in a future meeting.
Okay, you're done with your report. Thank you, Superintendent. All right, and thank you to our student representatives, too. We're going to move on to the report of our standing committees, and so I'm going to start with our Education Committee report, and that's Member Harla.
Thank you very much. So we had a actually a really good discussion last week at our Education Committee with a lighter agenda, but it was still a robust discussion, and I just want to start out. Our first agenda item was the 2014-2015 state test results, and again, want to thank Dr. Lake for all that she does in our district to compile, not just compile data, but make sure that we understand what we're talking about. And I know you also work with a large team of people that work to make sure that the data we're talking about today is from all the way from teachers and support staff to people in this building all throughout the district really work hard to make sure that we get this, and teachers teaching this. Just in general, just thank everyone that you really worked closely with to get this. So thank you for your continued support. So the first piece was talking about the all accountability tests. Test results for this last year that we received, and it included students who were attending ISD 709 October 1st and then took the tests in our district. And the data that we had talked about, and there are many pieces of data that we as a board do receive information on throughout the year. This is just on the Minnesota Comprehensive Assessment and the Minnesota Students with Special Needs test. So hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Just for an overview, there's a lot of different data pieces, and so a lot to unpack, but I'm just going to walk through the themes that we heard about in the presentation. Overall, approximately half of our schools increased in proficiency, and the district's proficiency has steadily increased, and the district's percent proficient is consistent with the state average, and this is in reading. Most grades increased in proficiency in reading. All subgroups increased in proficiency with the exception of one, and that's special education. The achievement gap narrowed for most groups. Others widened, and some remained stable. And I think that that's an important thing that I know that in looking at the data for these students, we look at them as a group of students, but also really look deep dive at individual students and are tracking their data throughout the year, not just with these tests, but through many other things. And some of the areas that staff highlighted really were the growing support for our professional learning communities and how important of an investment that is, that we're making sure that teachers have support and are doing those and are learning to do them in evidence-based ways to make sure that we are implementing programming that is centered around student success. Several just to continue in reading, several schools have shown steady and significant increases, including Congdon, Laura MacArthur, Myers-Wilkins, Stowe, Ordine East, and Denfeld. In math, overall the district proficiency steadily increased. The proficiency of approximately half of our schools increased as well. The state's proficiency remained stable. All subgroups increased in proficiency except two. Our black students, our special education students remained stable. And the achievement gap, again, widened for most groups, while others narrowed or remained stable. And several schools have shown steady and significant increase in proficiency, including Congdon, Lowell, Lincoln Park, Ordine East, Denfeld, and East. There was a lot of conversation about the achievement gap in this conversation, and I don't feel like I would actually can I pass this piece to someone else to make sure, as a district, I know I spoke a little bit more, but want to hear a little bit more from our staff, just directly on how we're looking at addressing this just in a public forum, if that's beyond the, I'll pass it to Assistant Superintendent Starzecki. Thank you.
So the question is, what strategies are we using
Yes,
to address
please.
the achievement gap?
Yes,
Okay.
I know that, and that's so, when I say that, I realize I'm asking you to explain a can of worms, because I know that our district has a significant number of things that are in place, but as a part of our discussion last week, we did talk about some strategies, and if you could just, again, remind us of some of those touch points, because it's important. This is such a deep conversation. We need to keep talking about it, so
I think probably the most important strategy, not the most important, but one of the main priorities that we're focusing on going into this school year is just improving our professional learning communities and the work that was started last year. I think the district has looked at data from a district level and at building levels, and the PLC work that started last year that's going to be continued to be refined into this year is really drilling down into individual student data. So teachers are making we're making decisions on a more regular daily basis to change that daily instruction. And I think that's probably going to be one of our best strategies that we're using, some very research-based, evidence-based practices that are being incorporated into that work. Some of the other things that we've talked about is really looking at our cultural competency and our training for staff and how we can make sure we're meeting the needs of all of our students, as well as taking a look at some of our systems that we have in place across the district to make sure that we're identifying students early, intervening early, and that multi-tiered systems of support. So those are some big things. Yep. Obviously, there's lots of other things that go along with that. Did I forget anything? Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Just the overview, and again, it was discussed last week, but important that we talk about it and continue to bring it up in a public forum. Looking at themes for the MCA science, overall district proficiency significantly increased and has been increasing steadily. The district increased proficiency at a rate faster than the state. Most schools increased proficiency, some dramatically increased. Several schools' proficiency rates have increased steadily, and that's Laura MacArthur, Denfeld, Myers-Wilkins, Piedmont, Ordine East, and East. That's the overview for the data. Would you like me to go through and then have people talk about it, or? Yeah. Okay, okay. We'll go to the next. The next piece, we did have a presentation from the East Daredevils robotics team, and it was pretty neat to see their robot come through. And I look forward, it's great that we hear from them. I look forward to seeing other clubs come forward and hear about all the different activities that we have in our district, from robotics to I know we can attend many drama clubs and sports. Looking forward to hearing about a lot of those different activities moving forward. But congratulations to those students, and it's recommended that the Duluth School Board receive that item as informational. There were no grant applications, and then there is a data sharing agreement with the College of St. Scholastica Trio Talent Search and the Duluth Area Family YMCA. And there are diploma requests from the following students: Vernon Allen Redmond Holiday, Keenan Drayan Kenya Lindsay, Nolan Robert Klein, Echo Kiera Brander Thomason, Alexander Scott St. Germain, Conrad James Pryor, Ethan John Cole, Julia A. Brigham, Angela Lemaire, Jace M. Loisel, Andrew Wayne Reinhard, Caleb Gibson Wolf. It is recommended that the Duluth School Board accept and approve the above diploma requests. And then the following student has met Duluth Public Schools requirements for a certificate of attendance and should be awarded a certificate of attendance. Adam M. Berg. This is recommended that the Duluth School Board accept and approve the above request for a certificate of attendance from Denfeld High School. And I move this month's education report.
Thank you, Member Harla. And that's been moved by Member Harla and seconded by Member Murneke. Is there any discussion? Member Johnston.
1A1.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Nope, seeing none? Okay. That's the testing. Okay, Member Johnston, go ahead.
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the information. Yeah, we have some good things in this, but there's also some things to point out. We have a lot of work to do. I'd like to point out just a few of them that I'm very concerned about. First one is on page 5. We'll just go through a couple quick ones. This is a reading percent proficiency. I look at the graph. I compare Lincoln Park to Ordine East. The Ordine East proficiency in reading is 70% higher than Lincoln Park. In other words, 41% versus 71% of students at Lincoln Park versus Ordine East. That's not acceptable. If you look at Denfeld, the East is about 24% higher than Denfeld. The scores in proficiency in Denfeld is 54% versus 67% in East. Again, this has been a consistent. We've talked about the disparity between East and West. That's pretty obvious. Again, I want to also look at some of the changes. Unfortunately, Lincoln Park has went down about 4%. That's on the next page. Remember, that's about a 42%. Ordine East went up about 5% at 71%. Again, we in the West schools are not doing as good as we want. I do have some suggestions there. I appreciate the staff for their ideas here, but I want to point out that this is really getting very important. The achievement gap was mentioned there. The achievement gap has not changed any. The next page, which is page 7, white students on proficiency on reading is literally 132% higher than proficiency in blacks. In other words, 65% in whites versus black is 29%. 29% of any population that is proficient. It's a major issue. Whites are about 60% higher than proficiency in Native Americans, or again 65 versus 39. Not acceptable. Let's flip back over to math real quick. Same story. Denfeld versus East. Proficiency in math in Denfeld is 34%. Believe it or not, that's higher than in the past. But to have any school that has a proficiency of anything at 34% is major problems. East High School is 56%. Lincoln Park versus Ordine East. Lincoln Park is 40% proficient in mathematics, 40% of the students, versus Ordine East is 61%. Again, the disparity is just not acceptable. When it comes to math, the achievement gap is even worse. Whites are 152% higher rate of proficiency than blacks, or 25% versus 63%. Whites are 61% higher than Native Americans. That percent is 63 versus 40. Again, not acceptable. Let's go back on the thing on the goals. I guess I'd certainly like to see, we know we're working on things on our PLCs and whatnot. I'd like to see, a goal that we have as a school should be to totally eliminate the East versus West gap, totally eliminate it. We as a school should have a goal to totally eliminate the achievement gap on whites versus Native Americans and versus blacks. That is why we'll be advocating for a goal, and we can and we should and we must meet that goal. I think that also our goals here has to certainly include the community. We're not the only school that has had this, but many schools have improved this, while we have not. And I want our goal as the ISD 709 to eliminate the achievement gap completely, and eliminate the East versus West completely.
Thank you. I completely agree. That would be our goal, and closing the achievement gap is among our goals, and we have been making strides to make some changes in that area. The statewide goal, it's actually a national conversation, the closing the achievement gap. Certainly in Minnesota it is. We here whenever we're working with state staff, we talk about closing the achievement gap and strategies to do that. And a lot of the legislative work, a lot of the policy work is all centered around closing the achievement gap. And the state has a goal of closing the achievement gap by half by 2017. That is where our goals have been set, kind of lined out each year to keep us on track to those goals. I'll be the first to say, are we exactly where I want us to be? No. But I am proud of the work that our staff has done and continues to do in the areas of PLC, in the areas of curriculum alignment, getting common assessments in place, because these are the key pieces that we need to have in place to be able to make progress on this goal. I do have to say that I lost you a little bit in the numbers, Member Johnston, as we were going through, because there were several times that you said over 100%, and I don't know how they can be over 100% different when it's on a 100% scale. I think maybe you meant that they were double digits, or I won't guess at what you meant, but I'll just let you know that I was a little confused in that area when you're going through that. Certainly areas that we continue to work on. We are in the process of refining the district-wide continuous improvement plan. We continue to focus on work to close the achievement gap and to work with our teachers, our principals, our students, families, and the community on this important goal.
Student Representative Olafson.
Yeah, I just want to look at the improvement within Denfeld. I attend Denfeld. I don't attend East. East and Denfeld are not the same school. I don't think it's a fair comparison to compare the two schools. But within Denfeld, I see a 10% improvement in our reading scores. In approximately the 300 student class that took it, that's 30 kids. That's an entire reading class that became proficient in 1 year. And then if I go to math, I see 6%, and that's 18 kids. That's another entire math class that became proficient in 1 year. So the east to west comparison, I don't think is fair. We're different schools, we're different groups of people, we all come from different backgrounds. But within Denfeld, we are improving, so.
Thank you. Member Johnston.
Sure, just to answer the superintendent's question, say, for example, on page 7, 100%, the whites are graduating 132% higher. For example, blacks are proficiency, not graduation. Reading proficiency on page 7. Reading proficiency for blacks is 28%. 100% of 28 would be 56%. The whites is a 64%. In other words, is 132%.
Member Loeffler-Kemp.
I just wanted to thank Dr. Lake. I unfortunately wasn't here for your report, but I appreciated that very comprehensive numbers and the themes to help me just make it very reader ready, is that a word? I don't know. For me to kind of get a good sense of what the numbers meant. So I appreciate that. Member Johnston, I attended. I appreciated what you said about the achievement gap. I just wanted to share with the board. I attended the Summer Institute for the School Board training that was held in early August, a 2-day training, and we had for school board members around the state, and we had a wonderful speaker who talked about how we as school board members are talking about the achievement gap and how we're understanding it. And the speaker speaks all across the country and has lots of good research and all of that, but probably one of the most important, there are many things he said, but he reminded us that as we're talking about the numbers, we needed to talk about the people. And we needed to talk about that poverty is the most common, factor among low achievement children, and we have a poverty learning gap. And so we can the numbers are important, and the interventions we're doing are very important, and so thank you, Assistant Superintendent, for highlighting a few of those. But we also need to be talking about what are the things your school district is doing, and our community that we live in, around poverty, around dysfunctional families, around unsafe communities. And I would love to see more of our discussion be talking about what we are doing around that and engaging with our city around what we're doing together to address poverty, to address dysfunctional families, mental health, thank you. That's something that's very near to me this very moment. And unsafe communities. And so I I have some information I'd be glad to share with you, but as we have this discussion, I hope everyone thinks about it and really the bigger picture of what the achievement gap is as well.
Thank you, Member Leffler-Kemp. Any other discussion? I think just one thing I want to say really quick, as we were reminded last week at our discussion, is these test scores are just one snapshot. They are one day. Whether a student is sick or is having a bad day, it is one day. And our teachers are working so well in our classrooms to work with our children, our students, to help them achieve. And just the one test, one day, it's not always a true picture of the capability of a student. So that's one thing I think the testing is just a little bit overdone for our kids. Member Johnson, you have something else?
Yeah,
Yes.
I appreciate all the comments. We have to involve the community and everything, but it's very important that we don't just blame things like the unfit community. This is an issue in our school. Let's talk about people. What are these kids going to happen to them? This translates into also graduation rates. Our graduation rates are comparable. And yes, we're talking about people here. This is people. That's what we're talking about.
Member Harla.
I just wanted to thank Member Leffler-Kemp and Mr. Olofsson so much for your comments. I think looking at it in that way and looking at specifically where we're seeing growth and being realistic about areas where we can grow, and that's what we talked about tonight. But I just really wanted to thank you for continuing to remind us of that. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to vote on the entire education report. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Oh, I'm sorry. Oops, go ahead. Sorry.
We voted, that's fine.
We did.
All I was going to say is just over the years, especially when I was a principal, I ended up dealing with all kinds of tests and all kinds of results and what we started to do sometimes to make it more meaningful, you get a school score, and yeah, that has some weight, some things to consider. But where we found it most useful was individual scores. And so we actually were able to, for some of these tests, to have, for example, our math department go through individual students. Where were they weak? Where were they strong? Where were we strong as a department? Where do we need to increase scores? Or increase some of the things we were doing. So really the individual scores did have some usefulness versus the overall group school scores. So that is just something I remember from way back when.
Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't see your light until after we'd voted. Okay, we're going to move on to the HR committee report, and this is Member Murneke. If you would present that, please.
Thank you. Our human resources action items: certified appointments 14, certified leaves 1, certified permanent decrease 2, certified permanent increase 1, certified resignation 1, certified summer school 11, non-certified appointments 23, non-certified demotion 2, non-certified permanent decrease 13, non-certified permanent increase 25, non-certified promotion 9, non-certified reclassification 1, non-certified resignations 3, non-certified retirements 4, non-certified summer school 1, and non-certified temporary increase 1. We have other action items. We'll pull 2A again, and B, placeholder with our agreement with the firemen and oilers. Mr. Swirsky, if you'd like to bring us up to date on any changes, anything we should know?
This is a resolution, right, Member Murneke? What, do you want to?
I'm not sure if they voted, so I have to wait. Okay. All right. So we can do this.
So let's do the resolution then.
Right.
Page 5.
Yeah, I was waiting for someone to tell me that we had voted on it, but it was that they had voted on it. Okay. Resolution 815-3295, National Conference of Firemen and Oilers, District of Local 32BJ, SEIU, and CFO District, Chapter 956, resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, that the collective bargaining agreement between the Independent School District Number 709 and the National Conference of Firemen and Oilers, District of Local 32BJ, SEIU, and CFO District, Chapter 956, a summary of which is in the hands of all school board members, be approved and adopted for the periods of July 1st, 2013 to June 30th, 2014, and July 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2017 inclusive, and that the chairperson and clerk of the school board be hereby authorized to execute said agreement on behalf of the school district. I move this resolution.
Okay, this resolution has been moved by Member Murneke, seconded by Member Harala. Is there any discussion? Member Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question of, did I miss a copy of this? It says we have it in our hands. I haven't seen this.
Go ahead, Mr. Hanson.
Both the cost outs and the red line copies were previously distributed.
Okay, thank you. I missed that. Could you just give us, just for the community, just a highlight of any controversy that was there that got resolved? Just any couple highlights that'd be good. I certainly support it, of course, but anything you would like to report back that might be interesting to the community?
It was we explored many things. And I think some of those will continue to be on the table for another time. But at the same time, in the end, we were able to resolve our, the discussions and come up with a tentative agreement that both sides could live with. I would tell the board that the parameters that you've established are, this contract is consistent with that. And so I encourage your positive vote on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Resolution HR 8-15-3295, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries unanimously. Okay, Member Murneke, go ahead and continue.
Okay, this is the first reading of approval of new policy 4180, workload limits for certain special education teachers. We did have a discussion on this, and we had questions about the parameters of this agreement. We're basically going in line with Minnesota state statutes. And then we had an informal discussion on increase of the minimum wage, and at that time we recommend a future discussion on this as a budget consideration. There are no other future items. I move the Human Resources report.
Thank you, Member Murneke. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Member Westholm. Is there any discussion on the remainder of the HR report? Member Johnston.
4A.
I'm sorry, what?
4A.
Okay, go ahead. Oops, you must have turned off.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Again, we talked about this briefly at the committee meeting. We talked about it last month. Last month, I'd proposed a resolution to put our minimum wage, the minimum wage that we're paying, up $1 over the required minimum wage. That did not pass. I would have put that resolution in again here today, but it isn't going to pass again. Just wanted to say the same things I did about it before. I think that it's important that we, as a school, look at this. I think we lost an opportunity. We had a speaker even mentioned it here today about the low pay for their monitors. This means a lot for the people that are not getting paid very much. These are our lowest paid people in the district. Most of them work not full-time. They work probably 10 hours a week, something like that, but it's important for these people. The total amount, if we would have just went $1 over the minimum wage, would have been $30,000. With this resolution, we rightfully so upped the substitution rate for our teachers. That cost us about $250,000, which I support. But I think that we missed an opportunity as a board here. I know there's some board members that promote living wages. Certainly I do, and I think as a school we should not be paying minimum wage for some of the people that are working very tough, like the speaker so eloquently put it earlier today. I think we missed an opportunity, and I think it's sad that the board elected not to do that when we as a board should have been leading this. It would have cost an insignificant amount of money, virtually nothing. And it was an opportunity that would have made these people, like the monitors, much appreciate effort that we could have done to give them a small bit of thanks and recognition. And I will be bringing this up and hope that we can do this again.
Superintendent, you'd like to say something? Oops.
I just wanted to harken back to our conversation during the committee meeting. I can't remember if Member Johnston was there for the discussion, but I know that there was a lot of talk about how much everyone appreciates the work that is done, and it wasn't that there was a decision not to make a wage increase as far as, but it was more about when it was happening, that a decision was being made with outside of the budget cycle. And so by having that discussion outside the budget cycle, it's not in context of what's being given up in able to provide this. And so I believe it was agreed that it was going to be a part of the coming budget cycle. Those discussions would start in January for a decision to be made during that process for the following year. And please feel free to correct me if I got that conversation wrong, but I believe that is what we said.
Thank you, Superintendent. Member Murneke.
We recommended future discussion on this. We recommended, we agree on the importance of this. We need to have some future discussion. And I remember specifically bringing up the term retroactive. I myself, in the 36 years I taught, received retroactive pay increases. It was very nice, little treat sometimes for a poor teacher. So this isn't done.
Member Welty.
Member Murdinke is correct that he did mention the issue of retroactive pay, which would mean that if we did wait until the next budget cycle, we could recompense these lunch helpers for the previous year. And as Member Johnson said, it's a pretty modest increase of $30,000 for all of them that we were considering last month. I will just simply point out that from the standpoint of hanging our hat on the issue of going through the budget process and not making an unplanned change, that did not stop us from paying that $250,000 increase to the substitute teachers, although the actual increase to the district was only about $150,000, which is considerably more than the $30,000 for the lunch workers. So I'm not as persuaded that all the arguments about our considering this are quite as strong as I'd like them to be. But I certainly will be considering the question of retroactivity that Member Murneke has mentioned, because as I've said a couple of times, we have some people who do some very important work who are given very little for the work they've done, and as our eloquent speaker pointed out, some of those people have been getting the least possible increase in their pay for a very, very long time, and it would be kind of nice to think that we would recognize that and take this proposal of retroactivity in mind when the new budget process begins.
Superintendent.
I just wanted to add to that, Mr. Wiltie, that I just wanted to point out that we're talking about more than lunch staff, that this is all hourly and subs for hourly positions.
Member Leffler-Kemp.
Two things. One is a lot of numbers were thrown around, and I just wanted to give Mr. Hansen a chance to clarify if a few numbers were thrown around were accurate, and then I have another comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Hansen.
Just a reminder, board, for the measure that you passed last month in July that did the increases, some of the increases to that schedule, particularly related to the increase to the minimum wage. Our estimate of the impact of that was about $70,000 that you did pass. As best we could estimate from the different language on the proposals that was happening last month as part of possible consideration, our guesstimate on that was about $40,000 that we had estimated for that. So that's one of the pieces remaining, but that's again for your consideration at a later time. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Leffler-Kemp, you had something else.
I just wanted to add, one of the, this discussion was actually very lengthy at the Human Resource Committee, and I don't think anyone was in a disagreement that we all would like to pay all of our staff, regardless of what they're doing. They're all important to our school being successful, paying them more. But what we did focus on is that we do have a budget process, and thank you, Mr. Hansen, for reviewing that again with people, especially some of the new potential school board members that were sitting in the audience. But that it's hard to pull one thing when there's a host of things that might be a priority. Mr. Olofsson just talked about, and Mr. Goosens, about more mental health counselors in our school. $30,000 could pay for a mental health counselor in our school. And so just in this context alone, that was what the discussion was at our Human Resource Committee, is that's why we have almost a 6-month budget discussion as a board. So we're hearing from the community. We're looking at legislative changes. So in the budget that we voted on in June, we did talk about the potential for the minimum wage increase. Many of us lobbied for a higher minimum wage increase, but so that was the discussion that happened at the Human Resource Committee, is the importance of kind of looking at all of the pieces of the budget.
Member Johnson.
Sure, I'm glad we have an agreement on this. I'm looking forward to making that retroactive. But again, I want to do it now. We can. There's no reason why we couldn't. The budget thing is not a legitimate excuse. As Member Welty said, we went and spent $250,000 or maybe $140,000 increase in substitute teachers, which I'm of course in favor of. And of course, don't forget that we spent about $250,000 not in the budget process to try to remove me as a board, which you all failed on. So the money obviously is not an issue. I want to give our lowest paid people some help. We can and should have done it now.
We're going to vote on the rest of the Human Resources Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries unanimously. Okay, we're going to move on to the Business Committee report. And Member Westholm, if you would present that, please.
Thank you. First, I apologize for missing Monday's business committee meeting, and I thank Member Murneke for covering for me. But I will handle the business committee tonight and hope I get it right. I think I will. First of all, I will run through the various items. It's always it's probably the longest report every month, but financial report, number of routine things, financial report, approval of payment of claims, budget revisions, and so on and so forth. We get down to F, WATM projections. That's always, of course, a popular one. But right now, of course, we don't have WATM projections, and they will resume in September when, of course, the students return. Fundraisers, we just had one this month. Bids, quotes, and policies and regulations and so on and so forth, we didn't really have much this month. That brings us down to where we did have a number of items. Contracts, change orders, and leases. We do have a placeholder under B, change orders. Change order related to the long-range facilities plan or 10-year capital facilities plan, 2015 requiring board action. We had no leases. Resolutions, we did have several. And I don't know if we want to go through those one by one.
Why don't we take those one by one right now? Thank you.
Do you need to go back, do anything with change order? Would you need to do anything or just?
Nope.
Okay. All right. First resolution is on page 8. It's resolution B 8-15-3290. It's a resolution entering into a joint powers agreement with Minskew and Lake Superior College. And it's recommended that we approve this resolution.
Okay, so resolution has been forwarded motion by Member Westholm, seconded by Member Murneke. Is there any discussion at all? Okay, seeing none. Oh, Member Welty?
Ready to read it?
Do you want to read the whole thing?
Oh.
Did he read it? Did he read it or not? Okay.
I think I did.
If you just want to read just the number would be good, and the date, Mr. Westholm.
Okay.
Page 8.
You don't want me to read the resolution, or? Okay. All right. The resolution, it's on page 8, and it's B-8-15-3290. It's August 18th, 2015.
Okay, and that was seconded by Member Murneke. All those in favor of resolution B-8-15-3290, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries unanimously. And go ahead to the next one, Member Westholm.
The next resolution on page 14 is B-15-3291, resolution entering into a joint powers agreement with the State of Minnesota Department of Education. And once again, it's recommended that the Duluth School Board approve this resolution. So we look on page 14. And the resolution, again, August 18th, 2015, and I can read it very quickly.
Just read the number. Be fine.
Okay, the number again is B-8-15-3291.
Okay, seconded. Okay, that's been moved by Member Westholm, seconded by Member Murneke. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of B-8-15-3291 say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries unanimously, and you might as well keep going.
Okay, C is resolution B-8-15-3292 relating to the election of school board members and calling a primary election thereon. And it's recommended that we approve this one, and that's again on page 25. And we're electing 3 board members in the 2015 general election, and they are 1 at-large seat, 1 District 2 seat, and 1 District 3 seat. And that's the seats that were up for election this term.
Second.
Okay, so Member Westholm has moved the resolution, and Member Murneke has seconded it. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of B-8-15-3292 say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries unanimously, and there is one more, Member Westholm.
One more. Okay, D is B-8-15-3293, and it's approval of election judges and polling sites, and that's on page 27. And once again, it's recommended that we approve this resolution, and I move this resolution.
Second.
Okay, this resolution has been moved by Member Westholm again and seconded by Member Murneke again. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of resolution B-8-15-3293 say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously again. And we have one more resolution down, the placeholder change of resolution. Member Westholm,
Yeah.
did you see that?
Yes.
We just have to change some language.
Okay, this is resolution B-8-15-3296, and what the language that we're changing is.
Member, I'll have Mr. Leiter explain
Okay.
to us. Oh, can I have the You're moving it?
Oh, I'm moving Resolution B-8-15-3296.
And can I have a seconded by Member Murneke? Okay, now, Mr. Leiter, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Sligapunko, members of the board. I received a phone call today from the title company who is working with us on the property transaction related to the sale of Morgan Park. As you know, you passed resolution. We have completed the closing, received the money, and the title company was working with the county for purposes of recording the deeds, transferring the title of property, identified that they would like to see in the formal school board resolution the legal description, complete legal description of the property. And so the resolution I'm asking you to authorize tonight amends the resolutions you've already approved and adds to it the full legal description of the Morgan Park property. This may be redundant. Our title company is working with the examiner of titles, believes that may be able to accomplish it without this, but I want to have this just in case that formality is required. So,
okay, thank you, Mr. Leiter. Is there any more discussion on this resolution? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of Resolution B8-15-3296, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously. And Member Westrom, you can complete the business report, please.
Yes, I think that's the end of our placeholders, and the rest there's informational items, and that completes the business committee report, and I move the business committee report for this month.
Okay, that's been the complete business report without resolutions has been moved by Member Westholm, seconded by Member Murneke. Is there any discussion? Member Harla?
Yes, placeholder 5E, the Denfeld Area Greenhouse.
Okay, is there anything else? Seeing none? Okay, we'll go ahead to 5E. Member Harla, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to take a moment just to lend my support to the Denfeld Area Greenhouse and the opportunity that we have in the deep weather greenhouse being opened on Grand Avenue right in front of Denfeld High School. I know there's been a number of news articles out where there's been some negativity about the clients that Community Action Duluth serves, and I want to say that it's a very important organization in our community, and they're very vital members of our agency, of our community. I just want to say personally and heard a lot of agreements on the board of our opportunities that we can have to partner with Community Action Duluth and the agencies that are supporting it. So I want to thank and just wanted to highlight as well important programs like the Lincoln Park Fair Food Access Program and how there's a lot of food insecurity that is in Lincoln Park part of town. I know it's not necessarily a neighborhood, but it does provide additional access to fresh and healthy foods in Duluth, as well as it is job training and an opportunity for us to partner with community organizations. So wanted to take a moment to say that it's important as leaders in our community that we stand up, and very supportive of this. So thank you, members. Thank you, Chair.
Member Welty.
Just a question and perhaps a comment afterwards. I certainly agree with everything that Member Harla has just said about the importance of community action and some of the very positive things that could result from this project. But there was a question that has not yet been answered that I know of about whether or not we would be able to work cooperatively and our students would be able to work in the greenhouse. And I understand that some conversations have taken place, and the last I heard there were no guarantees that that would work out. Have we reached any guarantees that will assure that our students will be able to work in the greenhouse that will be abutting the Denfeld property?
Would you like to answer that? Or okay. Go ahead, Superintendent.
Since we spoke last week, we haven't had further discussion, but I have every reason to believe that they will honor their intent to have shared programming between Community Action Duluth, Junior League, and the school district, and that our students would have an opportunity to work regularly in the greenhouse. So I'm optimistic.
Thank you. Member Welty.
Well, then, my comment would be, I'd like to be as optimistic, but a guarantee would be better than optimism.
Member Leffler-Kemp.
Yeah, I shared this at, when we discussed this at the Business Committee meeting, but I serve as representing an elected official on the Community Action Duluth Board, and so that, as I shared with you, does give me an opportunity to participate, and I just got on the board in July, so it was, as this has already progressed, but so I look forward to, sharing any thoughts that you have to the board, and I think it is helpful serving on the board, on their board as well, to be able to raise issues as they come about, and support for working collaboratively with them on programming and helping continue to foster those discussions. And so, I shared that again at last week's meeting, but I just wanted to highlight it again.
Okay, is there any more discussion? Member Johnston.
Oh, yes, thank you for asking for our opinion. Yes, I would like to express that I think that this, if Denfeld could participate in this, it would be a great benefit for the community, as well as Denfeld and West Duluth, and so I would expect that to happen.
Okay, seeing no other lights, all those in favor of the rest of the business report, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries unanimously. And then back to, we have no special resolutions, and it looks like we are adjourned.